Luigi Mangione has been officially charged in the state of New York. The charges include first-degree murder, 2 counts of second-degree murder, one of which is charged as killing in the act of terrorism, 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 4 counts of third-degree criminal possession of a weapon, 1 count of fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of second-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument. What does all of this mean? And how can a person be charged with first and second degree and third or fourth degrees of the same charge like murder or criminal possession? Let's go ahead and break this down. So, first of all, what is the difference between first degree and second degree murder? Um, First degree has to have some sort of elevated charge to it, like you have killed a cop or you engaged in an act of terrorism, or there has to be some sort of aggravating circumstance. You obviously have to have the intent to kill. That's the first requirement. But then on top of that, you have to have some sort of aggravating circumstance, like you were a murder for hire, or there were multiple victims, or there was terrorism, or you have a prior conviction of murder, or you tortured the person, or the person that you killed was a police officer, a firefighter, corrections officer, a judge, a witness, or other public officials killed while performing their duties. That would all be aggravating circumstances that would lead to first degree murder. So Luigi Mangione got a first degree charge because they claimed that he committed an act of terrorism. So that would be the aggravating circumstance that would elevate it potentially to first degree murder. Second degree murder is also an intentional killing. You decided you wanted to kill somebody, but you didn't have that aggravating circumstance of murder for hire or terrorism. So what they've done is they've charged Luigi Mangione with first degree murder, believing that the reason for it is terrorism. They've also charged him with second degree murder and second degree murder with an elevated charge on it, which is killing in the act of terrorism. Now, how can they do that? This is one question a lot of people have. How can they charge you with first degree and then second degree again with killing in the act of terrorism? And it's because the prosecution doesn't know what the jury's going to decide. So the prosecution just decides to charge Luigi Mangione with all three and says, all right, the jury will decide which one they'll actually convict him for. So if they don't think they can get him, like, for example, the jury listens to all the evidence, they listen to all of the parameters for what causes a first degree murder charge. And they might say, well, we don't believe that Luigi Mangione was committing an act of terrorism. We believe he tried to kill the guy. We don't know if this actually fits the terrorism bill. Therefore, he would be no longer eligible for first degree murder. So what they then do is say, all right, well, then it would be second degree murder because he did intend to kill the guy, but he didn't have one of those aggravating circumstances. But we can add to it this killing in the act of terrorism, which in the state of New York refers to a specific criminal charge. The law addresses homicides that are committed as part of a terrorist act or with the intent to intimidate or coerce civilians, influence government policy, or affect the operation of government through violence. And this statute was enacted after 9/11, and it was to address crimes committed as act of terrorism within the state of New York. So they've kind of added this to the list. But this is where people are debating these charges for Luigi Mangione. Of course, the guy might not be the right guy. There's always a possibility they didn't get the right guy. There's a possibility that this is not the shooter that we saw in the video, right? So that being said, let's say it is the right guy. To then try to get him with terrorism, this is where people are debating, was this an act of terror? What's the definition of terrorism? What would be terror? And what they're thinking on this is that because he was targeting, not because he had a particular healthcare, like a vendetta against this particular CEO of United Health. It turns out he wasn't even a client of United Health. He wasn't paying them. That wasn't his insurance company. So he was just targeting CEOs of health companies because he had a vendetta against health insurance industry and the healthcare and the medical industry in the United States in general. So this would qualify in their mind under an act of terrorism in order to send a political message. Maybe it qualifies under that. I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. We're going to get to some listener comments at the end of the night. So tell us what you think. Do you think that he did commit an act of terrorism? The intent for terror, in order for it to qualify, the perpetrator must commit the act with the intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or a government or international organization. And I don't know if an industry like the medical industry qualifies as a government or international organization. Perhaps it does. I'd be interested to see what you think. And then the act, of course, when you're going to be charged with killing in the act of terrorism, the act must result in the death of the other person, which it did. Now, this adds to the gravity of the crime. So if he gets convicted of first-degree murder, for example, the penalty for that is life imprisonment without parole. New York does not have death penalty. So life imprisonment without parole is what Luigi Mangiano would get. However, if they say, well, we don't really think that he was necessarily a terrorist, we just think that he was like a guy that, we don't think that the terrorism elevates it to first degree murder, but it was second degree murder, maybe with some terrorism sort of like kind of terrorism. So we'll get him for that. The minimum for second degree murder is 15 years to life in prison. The maximum is 25 years to life. But when you add that terrorism charge to it, then it elevates it to life imprisonment without parole. So that is how they would be able to get him for a much, it would be a much harsher punishment if they can tack terrorism on it. But I think there's a big conversation to be said about this term terrorism, what it means, how they can weaponize it against people. Should it even exist? There's a lot of people out there that don't even think a charge of terrorism should even exist, that terrorism is just, it's kind of a fluid concept that no one can really pin down exactly what terrorism is and what defines terrorism, what decides something is terrorism versus something not being terrorism. So it's kind of like hate crime, right? Hate crime is also one of those charges that there's a lot of debate on whether or not it should even exist. It seems like any crime would be done essentially out of hate. I mean, it's all bad. Why is it suddenly worse because you did it with this malintent, this a particular feeling when you kill somebody? Why would that particular feeling elevate the crime? So and not only that, but who gets to decide what is hate and what isn't hate? And all of that is so subjective that a lot of people think that, myself included, that there should not be such a thing as hate crime. And I kind of lean towards, I don't think there should be such a thing as a terrorism charge either. That committing a crime is committing a crime. When you kill somebody, you kill somebody. Why you did it is almost irrelevant to if you meant to kill them, besides it being self-defense, right? Why you did it. And I don't know, because then again, there's mitigating circumstances, right? So why you did it? Well, if this person was your child molester, for example, and they abused you your entire life, and then you finally got retaliation against them later on, I think the intent kind of matters there, right? That would be a mitigating circumstance that maybe would say, well, you don't deserve the death penalty, or you don't deserve life in prison. Maybe we'll give you 25 years rather than life because this person was your abuser. And so there's kind of like a reason that's understandable why you killed the person. So I don't know. I mean, part of me says, we do have mitigating circumstances. So why wouldn't there then be aggravating circumstances? And there are some aggravating circumstances, but the question is, should hate and terror be one of those aggravating circumstances? Curious to hear your opinion on that. Comment down below. So they're able to charge him with multiple degrees of the same charge. I don't think he could be I don't think he could be convicted of both first degree and second degree. I think the jury has to choose, but the prosecution is essentially giving him choice. They're giving the jury choices and saying, all right, look, if you don't think first degree, fine, second degree with terrorism. If you don't think second degree with terrorism, fine, second degree without terrorism. And those are the three charges that he has against him. He also has against him first degree, second degree, third degree, and fourth degree charges of criminal possession of a weapon. 2 counts of second degree criminal possession of a weapon, 4 counts of third degree criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of fourth degree criminal possession of a weapon. So sorry, he was not charged with 1 count or any counts of first degree criminal possession of weapons. So only second, third, and fourth. Well, what does that mean? When Luigi Mangiano was arrested, police found him in the possession of a 9mm handgun with a 3D printed receiver, 2 ammunition magazines, multiple live cartridges, and a homemade silencer. So, what so those all of those weapons fall under these different categories of second, third, and fourth degree possession of a weapon. Fourth degree is just simple possession of illegal weapons. So that would be something like a switchblade, a stun gun, basic weapons. This is a class A misdemeanor. The penalty is 1 year maximum in jail. Third degree is possession with intent, meaning you have prior convictions. And that would be like a defaced firearm or more than 3 firearms. And that is a class D felony. That penalty is 2 to 7 years. Second degree is a loaded firearm with intent to use unlawfully. That's a class C felony, and the punishment is 3.5 to 15 years. He was also charged with, and I believe that all of those different charges have to do with the different weapons he had in his possession. So each one kind of came with a different charge. He also got 1 count of second degree criminal possession of a forged instrument. That would be the fake IDs. So I know he had fake IDs on him. I don't know if he had anything else that was like counterfeit money or fake documents or anything. I'm not sure if he had anything else on him, but I think it was just, since it was 1 count of second degree criminal possession of a forged instrument, they did say he used a fake ID. I think it was 1 fake ID that they found on him. So those are the charges against Luigi Mangiano. And not good, obviously. The other big debate that's going on. So not only is there a debate now about this terrorism charge, whether or not there should be a terrorism charge, what is terrorism? And that debate is raging on, as it should. I think there should be a real discussion about all of these kind of added like I said, hate crime and terrorism. Anyway, the other debate is the lionizing of Luigi Mangiano. A lot of people think this guy's a hero, that he was going after this healthcare CEO who was effectively overseeing the death of thousands of Americans who were patrons of United Healthcare, were denied services from United Healthcare, and as a result died. And a lot of people think that that's criminal, and that the CEOs of these healthcare companies, pharmaceutical companies, health insurance companies, that they should face some sort of penalties, that they should be facing charges, that they should be charged with murder. They should be charged with crimes. They should be serving time in jail. And so there is also that debate. And the fact that Luigi Mangiano is not being viewed as a giant monster, the fact that I think a lot of Americans are kind of shrugging their shoulders and saying, yeah, people have just had it. That's just saying a lot about our healthcare industry, about the state of healthcare in the United States. You have so many people for so many years fighting, saying, we don't want Medicare for all. We don't want to change anything. Americans are just going to have to pay through the nose because we have the best healthcare in the country. Meanwhile, we have, like the Luigi Mangiano manifesto said, we have some of the shortest life expectancies in the Western world. It's going down. We have big pharma executives making billions upon billions of dollars, healthcare insurance executives making billions of dollars, while Americans suffer and continue to get fatter, sicker, and have lower life expectancies. It's a sham industry, and a lot of people are no longer buying this idea that we've been fed, especially by members of Congress. They're so bought off by the pharmaceutical industry. They're so bought off by the healthcare industry that they gaslight the American public by saying things like, well, if we change the structure, then we won't get all of the benefits of our excellent state-of-the-art healthcare industry. America has the best healthcare in the world. No, it doesn't. America doesn't. If you don't have access to it, it doesn't matter if it's excellent. If down the street, the hospital down the street, or the doctor or the clinic down the street has the state-of-the-art equipment, the state-of-the-art techniques, but you can't access them, what does it matter to you? And you paid for it with your tax dollars. You paid for it with your extremely high insurance premiums, with the extremely high cost of pharmaceuticals. And yet you still get denied. You still can't access it. I mean, people are pretty fed up with it. So anyway, we'll keep you updated on Luigi Mangiano, what the evidence ends up being when they finally actually hold the hearings, the court cases. But like to hear from you. What do you think about the terrorism charge? comment down below. You can also email kim@kimiverson.com.